It's been a fun start to the season, certainly a great Mother's Day weekend, and we appreciate you supporting us here at Padres Hot Tub as we continue to cover the San Diego Padres throughout 2024. If you enjoy the show and you've been listening for a while, or you've subscribed to the YouTube channel for a while and you've enjoyed watching the show, consider taking that next step and supporting us via Patreon, patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub, patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Opening level is $5. You can actually, have a free kind of sampler platter at patreon.com, but as low as $5, up to $30, catch and kill, $5 million will stop the podcast forever. Still want to throw it out there. If you happen to be rich and hate the show, kill it. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Otherwise, continue to support the show and help it to grow.
If you have money and you don't use it to make your life more enjoyable, you're not living life correctly. So if you've got $5 million and you don't like us, please just send it on over. We're ready for that. But I do want to point out that you can also just like some of our old videos on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Leave a comment there. We're loving interacting with folks all over the interwebs, from Instagram to YouTube, and especially on our beloved Discord.
Yeah, we just crossed 400 people who have become patrons. Our community is thriving. It's at its highest point ever. And we did just talk about Mr. Beast on our premium banter podcast, which you only get if you are a subscriber to Padres Hot Tub. And let me just say, Mr. Beast, if you want to make one of your videos about killing a podcast, we know you got the scratch.
Right.
I can see the thumbnail now where it's like Mr. Beast like this, and it's like, I killed a podcast.
Just all of our heads coming down.
Yeah, all of our heads on a spike, and he's like holding it like this. Unfortunately, I don't think Mr. Beast will see this. So if you'd like to support us in the meantime, we'd really love to have you. It's a great community. It's growing. We're doing Lake Elsinore Storm game in June that you can become a part of. You can buy tickets and sit with us if you're a patron. So come hang out. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub.
Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Welcome to the Padres Hot Tub, everybody, where we beat LA. All we do is beat LA. No, I'm not going to go there. 2 out of 3. Great. The train continues to move down the tracks for the 2024 San Diego Padres. Craig Elsten, Chris Reed, Raphie Cantor, we are all together recording this on Sunday night, Mother's Day night. Shout out to the moms out there. Shout out to our moms. Shout out to our wives. And everyone else out there who, presumably came from a mother. Thank you to the moms, all of you. We've got a fun one tonight. Hey, it's a lot better to do this show coming off 4 straight series wins, and that's what we're doing. Not too often that you can say that. I mean, we had a hot tub off of 5 straight series wins. That was in 2019.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that the Padres are getting the graphic ready.
To get the graphic ready.
They're going to the Indiana Jones warehouse.
Yeah.
Crates stacked hundreds high.
The ancient meme stash. Freddie Galvis's face has been gathering dust, and they just
exactly
blow it off.
I mean, I'd love to be able to say that I can remember all 5 players that were featured on the 5 straight series wins. I know Hosmer. I know Galvis for sure.
Machado,
I feel like Margot.
I
feel like there's a great shot at Margot.
I got the 5th for you.
Do you?
Franimal.
Franimal.
Franmil was for sure up there.
I will always love you.
I always appreciated that he sang the Dolly Parton version.
How do you know?
I could just tell.
Well, in front of record crowds, the Padres defeat the Dodgers 2-1 on Friday. on a Luis Arraez walk-off, base hit. Of course, not a homer. Come on, guys. Not a homer. Walk-off base hit. On Saturday, despite outstanding pitching from Matt Waldron, the Dodgers shut out the Padres 5-0. Grand slam for Teoscar in the 6th to take the game and ruin it. And then Sunday, the Padres reverse the tide. Instead of first inning homer allowed, it's 2 homers for the Padres and an early 2-0 lead, and they turn it into 4-0 as Yu Darvish goes 7 innings and allows 2 hits. So, Raphie, what's this crazy stat that since the year that they set the pitching rubber 60 feet 6 inches from home, the Padres are the best pitchers ever, apparently?
This was a stat that was pulled up during the broadcast, and I believe they broadcast pulled it from Elias Sports Bureau, but it's essentially the Padres are the first team since 1893 to have 4 starting pitchers in consecutive games go 5+ innings and allow 2 or fewer hits in their starts. Hasn't been done since, hang on, was that Taft? President Taft? Or was that Grover Cleveland? We're in that kind of zone, you know?
Yeah. Who was president in 1893?
You got it for us?
That's how Google. That's going to be Grover Cleveland.
Yeah. We're in the area code. But which term was? I think it was his second non-consecutive term. This is Grover Cleveland, only president.
It was yes, it was the first year of his second non-consecutive term.
God, he is. What am I doing with my
Great.
life?
So we're bringing up president serving 2 non-consecutive terms, and history repeating itself. Awesome, nice start, guys. How couldn't we start with something? Couldn't we start with something positive? Like that's the year Queen Liliuokalani of Hawaii was overthrown.
Wow,
that's not good either. That's pretty bad.
Are you saying that the Padres have opened the time vortex by throwing 4 great games in a row? Yes. That we are now doomed to repeat ourselves?
What have you done, Matt Waldron? What have you done?
The cauldron was bubbly this weekend.
Bubble, toil, and trouble. Oh my goodness. Well, just for the weekend, guys, this is how it played out. 3 starters, 19 1/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 runs, one of those an inherited runner scored, 6 walks, 24 strikeouts for King, Waldron, and Darvish combined. And of course, King and Darvish both shut out the Dodgers over 7 innings strong. Waldron gives up a only he can do it type homer from Freddie Freeman in the first inning, using the shortest, quickest straight swing maybe in baseball history, and pulling one into the first row of the Petco porch that was like from his shoe tops. And other than that, I thought he was absolutely tremendous in that game. I don't know, like honestly, you could have given me a lot of anything, and I would have still not said on Friday that the Padres would have done this to the Dodgers. If you told me that we would have beaten them 2 out of 3, you'd be like, okay, well, something happened along the way.
Well, I mean, I did say that on group therapy, like a week and a half ago.
That we were going
to. Chris, we have to tip our hat to Chris.
I think cap tipped.
You and I both predicted a 5-4 over the D-backs, Cubs, Dodgers stretch. And Chris, you said 6-3, and you said that we were going to win all 3 series, and you were right. So tip of the hat to you, sir.
I have to credit Michael friggin' King, man. I didn't get to watch that one live. The only one I got to watch live was with the friggin' Dodgers announcers yesterday, which was a particular torture until I put Jesse and Tony on. But Michael King, when I went back and watched that condensed game, my goodness, this is what people in our Discord were talking about when we're like, we just got the best number 3 starter in the NL West when he got traded for. It was just electrifying stuff. His command was there. He walked 3, but still like was just wicked with his tunneling and everything. Michael King gets all he made my prediction, I think, out of everything else.
Yeah, I wanna cop to and say that I did have a big concernometer rating on Michael King after the losing streak, after we did that. And I think that this is a very pleasant reminder that we all overreact when we watch baseball because we feel like the thing that's happening now is going to last forever. And
Yeah.
it's just not how the game works. And I'm sure that at some point in the future, King will have a bad start and there will be resumed talks of him moving to the bullpen after that bad start. And then he'll come back around and have another good one. And we're all going to look dumb because that's how we react on the internet nowadays, is that everything now is happening forever. And look, I mean, Pitching Ninja was posting out the wazoo videos of Michael King, and rightfully so. He had like alien levels of run on his sinker, and he was pairing that with a vicious slider. And this was the guy who, when we traded Juan Soto,
Yeah.
like this was the 90th. I mean, not even 90th. This is the 100th percentile version of he just held the best offense in baseball to 7 scoreless innings and making people look silly. Like, it was truly a treat to watch.
I think that's the key there. The 7 scoreless on limiting the bullpen's use period is so helpful for the team these days. And that's what drove it to being exceptional.
Well, also, he was paired against Tyler Glasnow, who was every bit as good.
Yeah.
I mean, Glasnow gave up a first pitch homer to Luis Campusano, and he gave up nothing else over 7 innings. He was truly dominant. Both pitchers were. King struck out 8 in the first 3 innings. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I thought truly he set a tone in the first inning, and the tone that Michael King had set in previous home starts was either giving up homers or walking everybody. Those were his 2 starts, with 7 walks or 4 homers. So, the last time against the Dodgers, he gave up 4 homers and 7 runs in 5 innings. So it's incredible to see that he has had back-to-back shutout starts where it seems like he truly turned a corner. And we hope that corner remains turned. I'll knock the wood that's adjacent here. But as you mentioned, I mean, 2 feet of run. He was throwing Dustin May sinkers.
Yeah.
On Friday. Like, just, to the point that I'm like, I hope your arm stays intact. Like, because I don't think the baseball's supposed to move that way.
Well, the difference between him and Dustin May is that he was throwing it at like 93 miles an hour versus
Right.
Dustin May throwing it at like 99, which that's all the little bit that, again, look at me. I'm not a doctor. Like, believe it or not, guys. But like, that velocity does make a difference. And the fact that he's able to get that much movement on his pitches and still be throwing with so much effect at 93 is just phenomenal. It's just so. And by the way, if you haven't, on Saturday, he talked to Don and Mud, I think during the 3rd inning or something of Saturday's game. And it was a really fascinating interview. He showed them like his sinker grip, and like it was clear, like when people were talking about the student that Michael King is and how much he pushes himself to get every little bit of efficacy out of his stuff. Like he clearly appears to be the student that we were promised, and it was. I'm so happy he's on our team. So happy.
I'm gonna go back and find that. I've just enjoyed every time he's talked. That's all. Like, he's told the story about leaving for the Padres on his honeymoon, and he's just coming. I think he's the replacement for Blake doing the play-by-plays. I just want to put that up there.
Well, I'll tell you what, Chris, what you can do is you can go find Sammy Levitt's podcast, Inside San Diego Baseball, available on the Odyssey app or any other podcast platform, because on today's pregame show, he had a great interview with Michael King. And
I just subscribed to that podcast this past week, so I will be catching up with that.
Yeah, I was actually listening to that while I was at the range today and thinking about the clips I wanted to pull for Monday's Annie and Elston show, because one of the things he talked about a lot was just his work with Luis Campusano and that like now they're getting to this level where they're understanding and thinking along the same lines of pitch sequencing and of like how a result within the course of an at bat would change the pitch sequencing. So I thought that was very interesting. He's certainly a cerebral pitcher. There's no question about that. The best news is, though, I think, Raphie, his fastball isn't getting massacred into the bleachers like every third time he throws it anymore. I mean, in those, like second, third, fourth, fifth starts that he had, basically almost every fastball he threw was in danger of being hit out of the park. And now he's gotten the mix right. And that's what he was talking about, the mix and the sequencing, where now his fastball is doing what it's supposed to do. It plays way up when everyone's focused on the sinker and the sweeper.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw him throw that fantastic game that he got tagged for the L for in Milwaukee when he went more than 7 innings and, I think pitched 1-run ball or whatever it was. And I heard what you were saying, Craig, about it. It had this feeling of like he was either giving walks or he was giving up home runs. And now I feel like he's got this point of being comfortable. He's comfortable with Luis Campusano. He's comfortable in San Diego. Clearly, him and Ruben Niebla have developed some rapport as well, which, this has been pointed out on the show before, but like he was coming from the Yankees, which is probably one of the top 3, pitcher forward organizations in baseball. And I think now I really saw someone who was throwing his stuff with confidence and, getting those pitches dialed into a point where, especially the sinker slider combo, if you go and like watch some of those videos, they tunnel in such a way that like they both look middle, like at the start of the pitch. And then one of them lane changes right and the other lane changes left. And I don't know how anyone ever hits a baseball ever because it looks like literally the hardest thing to do. But yeah, so this whole conversation started by me saying, I'm sorry, Michael King. I'm sorry I was concerned. I took your name in vain? No. I forsaked your name, probably? Is that something better?
You took the king's name in vain.
And I cannot wait to keep watching you pitch.
While the starting pitching delivered, and listen, it's been delivering. Go all the way back, right? Go back to last Sunday when Waldron got shelled. Darvish was great on Monday. Vasquez actually pitched quite well in the Imanaga game and almost made it 5 innings and didn't walk anybody. Then Cease basically threw a no-hitter, clunked the one ball off of his own glove. That was the only hit in the game. And then you turn it over to what King did on Friday, Waldron on Saturday, you on Sunday. It's my mantra. This team will go as far as its starting pitching takes it. It's carrying them right now because here's another thing that you would have been able to take all my money Friday afternoon talking to me. You could have said, hey, Craig, the Padres are going to score 6 runs this weekend total. And they're going to win 2 out of 3. And I've been like, you're a fucking liar. We got swept. or you could have open-ended it. Craig, the Padres scored 6 runs this past weekend. How did they do? Yeah, they got swept. They absolutely got swept.
Yeah.
They lost 8-2, 3-2, and 11-2. No, they won 2-1, lost 5-0, and won 4-0. Honestly, we haven't seen this in years. Usually when the Padres don't score, they just lose. And to see them pull out games the way that they did this weekend is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk about the Padres offense from a kind of StatCast perspective at some point over the course of the show, but like just this weekend alone, I mean, it was kind of remarkable on Saturday's game when the Padres were, shut out 5-0. The Dodgers had an expected batting average of 180, and the Padres had an expected batting average of 335, and they got 5 runs and we didn't. And the converse happened today, where the Padres won 4-0, but expected batting average was 299 for the Padres, 177 for the Dodgers. I mean, they were out hitting the best offense in baseball and also probably not scoring as many runs as they should have. Look, I'm totally with you, Craig, on the starting pitching is going to carry the team as far as it takes them, especially because, like, as we saw on Saturday, like, I don't know what to believe with this bullpen outside of Robert Suarez, because guys who I thought were good are, like, now making me have question marks. Go ahead, Chris.
Just I want to piggyback a little bit on where you were kind of going, Raphie. The team's ranked from Fangraphs 4th in the league, Major League Baseball in average, 4th in runs scored. Like that's incredible. And then once you get into the pitching, it's decidedly mid. But that's because they had one of their worst weeks we've ever witnessed in the midst of that 5-game losing streak.
Yeah.
You know, if we go ahead and do what MLB Network does and just take out stats we don't like to prove our point, I'll bet you that starting pitching ERA is in the top 10. Maybe not the relief pitching, but the starting pitching has been exceptional. And the team's hitting line drives again. You can't, like, it just feels so much more natural as a Padres fan to be going for putting the ball in play, hitting it hard, as opposed to selling out for power and walks like the last year's team was modeled on.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll bring this up now. The Padres are tied for first in baseball with the Dodgers in expected batting average on the entire season. They have a 271 expected batting average. And like you said, Chris, they have their 4th in actual batting average. But I just like, and to contrast that with in terms of the power game, we're tied for 10th in expected slug, which is still not bad. Like, you know, that's more than in the area code in terms of like what I would hope and expect from this team. And I think it's fascinating to see the Padres in just the matter of really a year go from we're going to be a team that's going to hit the lights out of the stadium and do everything to now we're just going to play pepper and put the ball in play. And look what is happening. Like, in terms of such an antithesis to everything that we understand about the modern game of like 3 true outcomes and everything like that, they are putting the ball in play and they are having just remarkable results. So, I mean, to see this from my San Diego Padres, I cannot believe it, guys. I truly can't believe it.
Well, here's what I can't believe. I can't believe that you can rattle off all of those stats, and then I can rattle off these stats, and they're both true at the same time. Manny Machado has a 238 batting average, 5 homers, a 287 on base percentage. His OPS plus is 93. His OPS is 661. Xander Bogaerts is hitting 204. That's thanks to a homer on Sunday. He had been 0 for 17, and if he had struck out instead of homering in that 18th at bat, he would have been down to 200 even. He popped up to 204, 259 on base, a 278 slug for Xander Bogaerts. 278. Like Ray Ordonez slugged above 270 fucking 8. And look, not for nothing, Fernando Tatis Jr.'s had a mini hot streak to get to 256, 8 homers, 764 OPS. Nowhere near MVP level, nowhere near the level of a superstar. So this club is tied for the lead in expected batting average, 4th in real batting average, tied for 10th in expected slugging, and up there in total runs scored. And they're doing it on Profar and Cronenworth and Camposano and Merrill, and not the $30 million guys.
No, if you would have told me, dude, that Jose Azocar and Tyler Wade would have higher WRC pluses than Manny and X-Man, I would think their record would be 5 or 6 games under 500 at this point, rather than
11 games under 500. Are you kidding me? That's worst case scenario stuff. Like, what if I told you Tyler Wade has a higher OPS than Manny Machado? Be like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And Profar is hundreds of points above Bogart. Like, you know, like, this is all impossible. Our team is dead. Did everyone die in a bus accident? Like, what happened? No, this is actually happening. The team is only a game over 500 with all of this crazy. This has just been so much stuff. The starting rotation has been dynamite, also terrible. The bullpen has the best closer ever. Also, you can't get to him because everyone else is a wobbly bridge. The defense should be great. It's been awful, but also it's great. And I don't. This is our team.
And I really like this team, guys.
They're so fun.
Like,
can I get one more hat tip? Just one.
Yeah.
I just want one more from you guys. How good did Louis Arise look in those City Connect uniforms?
Yeah. Okay. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, stop it, Craig.
No,
he's
you're
beautiful. Right. And then in the 9th inning, oh my gosh, rapturous.
No, this is true. You see, Chris was so insistent about Luis Arias looking so good in these City Connects. I drove by the Arby's in North Hollywood, and I saw Chris telling the checkout guy while getting some roast beef, "Don't you understand how good Luis Arias is going to look?"
I had a picture for him that I had photoshopped.
What did he do? He walked it off. So, Chris, you were making a point in that Arby's. Is all I'm trying to say. And hats off to you,
Raphie. I always will.
Make a point in the Arby's, indeed. Arias did his thing, but Luis Camposano was the player who hit the homer that allowed the game to be where it was, and then he hit the double that led to it. I'm going to bend this into a point here. The next day, the Padres got shut out by James Paxton. Yeah. Here's another thing you could have knocked me over with a feather 43 games ago. When we looked at the lineup and we said, wait a second, we've got 3 left-handed batters in this lineup, and they are Jake Cronenworth, Jurickson Profar, and Jackson Merrill. We are an all-righty team. We're going to get dominated by righties. We're going to obviously have our way against lefties because all of our star players are right-handed. The Padres lead baseball in average against right-handed pitching. They're hitting under 200 as a team against left-handed pitching. Every single guy who's supposed to crush lefties is doing nothing against lefties, which once again showed up on Saturday when the Padres got shut out by James Paxton. Baseball is stupid. I think I figured it out.
Do you happen to see where they rank against left-handed pitching? And this is just kind of anecdotal because when I'm looking at games for my parlays, I tend to look at the splits, and it seems like they've all been kind of low this year. Like teams aren't hitting lefties like I would expect them to. So just for my own brain, the context of where they're at.
Hang on.
I only asked because you had it.
This is this is courtesy of the Kevin AC newsletter. I was a minor exaggeration. The Padres are batting 206, 287, 350 against left-handed pitchers. That's starters and relievers. Yeah. The 206 average is 4th lowest in the majors and lower than any Padres team has ever finished a season. The 637 OPS against lefties is 5th lowest in baseball. Their 271 average against righties leads the majors. Their 744 OPS ranks 6th.
So stinky, farty, smelly, not the shitty.
I mean, yeah.
Really stinky, farty, smelly. Very.
204?
That's nose holding.
I mean, that's the area where we were the 206, pardon me. That's the area that we were the whole summer against runners in scoring position until the last 2 weeks of the season. I think the team hit 204.
Well, I think it's obvious
they
need to get rid of their left-handed hitters. It's the only way out of this. Like Jackson Merrill, Jacob Cronenworth, they got to go. Sorry.
No, I actually think the opposite. I think that when we start a lineup against left-handed starters, it's time to go ahead and two-way some of those players because The one thing that does stand out. Okay, so the Padres are now 1-10 in games started by Matt Waldron and Randy Vasquez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Waldron.
Can we talk about this for a second?
Yes.
Some of you don't know what a fifth starter is, and it shows. Okay? I see so many people on all of the internet apps, everything like that, like, Matt Waldron's terrible. Randy Vasquez is terrible. I'm like, guys, they're fifth starters. Like, if they go out and 5 and dive a 3 or 4 run outing, you are happy because they kept you in the game and it's competitive. That's what a fifth starter is. I didn't pull it up in time because I was trying to make my point and then I got so riled up. Okay. Padres in 2006, when they had Jake Peavy, when they had Chris Young pitching well, you know who our fifth starter was? Chan-Ho Park. Okay?
Yeah.
We love Chan-Ho Park. He's great. He helped us land some Korean superstars.
I did not like watching Chan-Ho Park pitch for the Padres.
Nor did I, Chris.
No, sir.
Nor did I. Okay? So I just want everyone to remember that it's okay that these guys are kind of mid. And guess what? Matt Waldron, as you're going to talk about in a second, Craig, is great. He was great on Saturday. He was fantastic.
Well, he certainly was. And here's, I'll just to kind of finish the thought.
Yeah, like who's still hitting? Which lefty staying in, not getting platooned?
Well, let me start behind the plate, okay?
Oh.
Matt Waldron is a complicated player to have on your team because catchers can't catch the knuckleball. They just can't do it. They don't understand. The ball doesn't move right. They're used to doing things in a way, and they have to do it in a different way. Like, literally, some guys want to use a different glove. Kyle Higashioka does not want to use a different glove. I heard him interviewed about it.
It's worth a try, Kyle.
The reason he doesn't is because Waldron doesn't throw enough knuckleballs. He throws as many fastballs as he does knuckleballs, and the fastball's 93. And he doesn't want to catch it with less padding with a pillowy knuckleballer catcher glove. But on Saturday, Kyle Higashioka played the position of catcher as poorly as I've seen any player in Major League Baseball play the position of catcher in years and years. And it wasn't just Waldron that he couldn't figure out how to catch the ball.
Yeah.
He was embarrassingly lazy at not getting his body left or right in situations to try and catch the ball. He kept trying to backhand things that were way outside. So Higashioka is starting because, believe it or not, friends, he's way better at catching the knuckleball than Luis Camposano, who is afraid for his life when he gets back there with Waldron throwing old Nuxie. So what happens? Every time Matt Waldron starts, you take out one of the Padres' 4 best hitters and replace him with the worst hitter on the entire roster. And then, like magic, that same day, every single time, however it seems to work out, Merrill sits 2 and a Zokar steps in. And then somebody else gets their rest day. And that's the day that, Solano, and listen, I like Solano. I don't think he's actually indicative of the problem. So for the sake of what I'm saying, I'll say Tyler Wade, winds up starting. And then you look at the team. On Saturday, Bogaerts was hitting 5th. Bogaerts, in the midst of like a career-destroying slump, was hitting 5th for this team behind the guy that we just mentioned is not doing anything, Manny Machado. So when we peel 2+ starters out of the Padres lineup, it's not the same thing. The lineup that we're playing that has Hassan Kim batting 9th, and we'll talk about Hassan. I hope he's okay. But that's cool. Yes. That's great. And the one where he's hitting 7th and Bogaerts is hitting 5th is not the same lineup. And I would love for them to be able to give Matt Waldron a chance to get some runs by not having the B squad starting every single time that he's on the mound.
This is what I brought it up at the end of our show, which is always bad. But I am done watching Kyle Higashioka get pass balls. It's rough. They have another option back there. It would be one thing if it were 3 pass balls a game And then dude was going out there and like being an offensively average major league catcher, or even 10-15% worse than that. But he's half as good as an average major league catcher. His K rate right now is 45.5%. That's a flip of a coin of his bat not touching the ball in an at bat. And he's a vet who got brought over because they thought the Padres might need his familiarity with some of these younger pitchers. Michael King can throw to Campusano. We're going to see Vasquez do it tomorrow, I'm assuming. So, Brett Sullivan is who he is, but at least he's caught Waldron. There's no spot for him. I'm not going to beat the dead horse, but I get so frustrated watching it happen every time Waldron starts. It makes, I hate the schmeggled schmoss term. I hate the punt game mentality. But you're right, Craig. When Higashioka's striking out half the time and he's batting ninth, and the guy before him isn't one of the regulars, it feels a little bit like a punt.
Yeah, I mean, I would just counter a little bit that he was brought in for his familiarity with the Yankees. I think he was brought in because they needed to replace Gary Sanchez, and they wanted to do it at less than half the cost, and so they did. And I still think, has it been frustrating to watch Kyle Higashioka at catcher sometimes when he was billed as a defensive first-minded catcher? Yes, that's been frustrating. I'm not willing to give up on him yet. I think he's got plenty of time to kind of to right the ship. And
he's 34.
No, I'm just saying this season for the Padres. I'm not saying like in his
Right.
career. In his career.
All right, fair. Yeah.
Well, in 12 starts, he has 3 pass balls and 5 wild pitches allowed. It seems like a lot. And honestly, I didn't truly notice it as much before a lot more kind of up close watch on Saturday, but his defensive form is terrible. Like, he's not getting left and right. He's reaching out. He's making the lazy play. Like, Mike Scioscia would have benched it. Bob Melvin would have benched his ass. Cranky Bob, Sleepy Bob, he wakes up. He turns into Cranky Bob when you have bad catching fundamentals behind the plate. Then all of a sudden there's 3 stories in the notebook from AC about, sources say this guy really doesn't have the fundamentals down. So, that's just my point. Is it's very difficult for a team that's got an intriguing offense, but one that really requires multiple events in multiple innings to get the job done, to all of a sudden unplug it. Zolkar just is not having good at bats. I don't care what his bubble.
Oh, the Dodgers announcers were eviscerating him. His first at bat, they're like, he swings at anything, and sure enough, he swung at 3 pitches that were off the plate. Really easy out. They say the same thing in his next at bat. Did the same thing. It's nice that he's getting as much contact as he is, but I mean, valid criticism. Dipshit Dodger announcers.
Yeah. The worst man makes a great point, right?
Yep.
Hang on, just cruising through our menu here. Oh, I want to say one other thing about Saturday, because I think it's a more so this can kind of lead into a general discussion of what's up with the bullpen minus Bobby Bullets, right? Bobby Bullets, great. Wandy Peralta, look, Wandy Peralta's Wandy Peralta. He's not going to be perfect. He's not going to be terrible. He's going to be here a while. We're going to get used to watching Wandy Peralta pitch. And I kind of feel like he's just being himself. What being Wandy Peralta is sometimes good, sometimes shit. So that's, we're going to get used to that. I really thought Enyel De Los Santos was my poster boy for don't have somebody pitch up and down all the time. And then he gave up another grand slam and has given up a homer, I believe, in 4 straight appearances now for the San Diego Padres. So that's cuckoo. Yuki Matsui, I wish he was a little bit better than he is so far. But I'm grinding toward where I really feel like Saturday's game got away. And it got away with the kid that the Padres really wish / need to be a leverage arm. But guys, I'm afraid that I have to agree with my friend Bill when we went and watched the game a couple weeks ago. And he said it, and I didn't want to believe it at the time, but I believe it now. Adrian Morejon is never going to be a leverage arm in Major League Baseball. He's got enough stuff to handle low leverage situations, to dominate 7, 8, 9 guys sometimes. But you put him in a situation where the fat's actually in the fire, and you're just going to get a negative result. And he came in to a controllable situation facing left-handed batters in the 6th inning on Saturday, and he walked the farm. He loaded the bases and turned it over to De Los Santos, and De Los Santos shook off. After I just dissed Higashioka, I was watching it so close. For pitch 1 was a backup slider, hung it, and Hernandez took it. Pitch 2 was a high fastball top of the zone. Hernandez swung through it. Pitch 3 was a slider down and away, executed. Hernandez spit on it. And then Higashioka called fastball. And De Los Santos shook him off. And went, okay, back to the slider. And he threw the same bitchy hung slider for a grand slam. I'm convinced if he had listened to Higashioka and thrown the fastball, it would have been strikeout. And he would have got out of the inning. But the inning was a problem because Morejon walked guys. Yeah. The only other leverage time they pitched him was when it was 5-0. That's barely even leverage. 5-0 in the Cincinnati game, and he promptly turned it into 5-2 and put the bullpen into the fire in that game. I want him to be better than he is, but I'm afraid that Adrian Morejon is not going to be more than he is.
The thing that comforts me about Wandy is the same thing that comforts me about Matt Waldron. And that's when things are tough, they're the same player on the mound. They have the same composition. Their heart rate seems slow. You know what I mean? And Adrian, God bless his actual his fancy stats, whatever you guys call them, the FIPS and the whatnots, because those are all incredible right now. But like you say, Craig, when the fat's in the fire, he can't stand up. And you're right, they need him. This is his last year with options. He's a guy that has tons of talent that in the hands of a guy like Ruben Niebla on a staff like this, you would think could really thrive and take the next steps. And they can't keep putting him in those situations. So how is he going to build up for it?
Yeah, I got nothing to add to this conversation, to be completely honest. I don't think that the team is comfortable putting Adrian Morejon in leverage situations unless they have to. And I think we have the track record at this point to back that up. I'm trying to pull up his win probability stats compared to the rest of the relievers, which I'm going to have in a second. But
peripherals. That was the word.
Sorry. Peripherals?
Yeah. Peripherals?
Peripherals.
Peripherals.
No extra real peripherals.
Peripherals. I got it. Thanks, boys.
Very well done.
Yeah.
He's coachable, gang.
Adrian Morejon's up there with, Wandy Peralta and Johnny Brito this year in terms of basically everyone in the bullpen right now. Jesus. Okay. I can't believe I just pulled this up. Everyone in the bullpen right now, except for Robert Suarez, of course, and Yuki Matsui, has a negative win probability added.
That's not good, right?
That is bad. That is in fact bad, Chris. I'm here to tell you that,
But so they have a positive loss probability added.
Yes, 100%.
Got it. I'm just trying to silver linings this because that sounds really shitty.
It is shitty. It is in fact shitty.
Where do you find that stat?
Okay, we can do a little Fangraphs tutorial right now. If you go to leaders on the Fangraphs and then scroll down to pitching 2024, and then you're gonna click on pitching and then player stats, And then you go down, you can select the Padres, and then you go down to, there's stat presets. This is fascinating content, I'm sure, for our people who are driving to work right now.
Somebody might get something out of it.
So you'll see it says dashboard, standard, advanced, batted ball. You click on win probability, and the first stat in the left-hand column is win probability added, and then you can sort by negative to positive. Yeah. Did you find it?
I just want to throw this at Annie at some point tomorrow. So
yeah.
So she
there
can
you go.
wince at me and go, well, maybe the other way though. And we'll find out what happens. That's great. Wow. For everybody, and Matsui's got to be close.
Matsui is basically dead even, 0.10.
Yeah.
And then you have Robert Suarez, who's all the way up at 1.82 WPA, which is wild.
But that's exactly what my gut tells me, man. Like, in the Discord, I'll see people going like, "Oh, why is he bringing in blankety blank here?" It's like they're all different colors of the same horse, man.
Yeah. I know when you have writers going, well, maybe Stephen Kolek will get higher leverage. See it like, oh God, we're not where we want to be. But also, you've got AC writing. The next thing the Padres are going to get is a reliever. It's like, okay, I get it. No, I do. I mean, I completely get it. It's been a muddled picture. It's led to something I talked about on the radio a lot last week. Schilt managing on a credit card in his bullpen, always taking his 7th inning guy and putting him in the 6th, and his 8th inning guy and putting him in the 7th, and his 9th inning guy and putting him in the 8th. And we go, well, maybe we could just get a little extra out of him. And it's a tough way to go, but at the same time, every single time he does it, it's because the guy he's pitching looks like he's about to give up the farm. So it's extremely understandable, but it is a problem. It's part of the reason we're 21-20. I couldn't agree with you guys more. I really like this team. I enjoy it. And then I talked to my buddy Ello as we cross, ships passing in the night. And the other day he's like, well, what's your analytical reason for why this team's only 20-20? And I'm like, well, the pitching hasn't been good enough. But like, it's been a multitude of weird things amidst a team that feels like if it snapped together for a couple weeks, they might not lose that entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And could go on a run. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't want to I want to see a run right now. They're on a run right now. This team is 8-3 right now. 8-3 is a good mark. It was immediately preceded by a 3-9 for this team. The Rockies are in town. The Rockies are in town for 3 games. This is not the time to have letdown Monday and to go out there and brain fart and get shut down by Ryan Feltner or whatever chode is being thrown by the Rockies on Monday night. And then follow it up with a 40,000 people Theo and Joe bobblehead night and get miraculously the offense doesn't show up. Like, we need to keep the pedal down just like we were playing the LA Dodgers for 3 more games. Because if you do that, you'll beat the Rockies by 12 almost every day because you'll just take the game more seriously than they will. And that's what I'd love to see the Padres do the next 3 days.
Well, can I just say, I didn't even realize this before we hit record. The Padres are going to have a Friday through Monday series, which is very rare in Atlanta. So these next 3 games against the Rockies are absolutely critical. And you alluded to this, Craig, but like, remember last year and I think the year before too, we would talk about the Dodger hangover game. Like that, like they'd go up to Chavez Ravine or the Dodgers would come to town. And then it's like, usually they got their ass kicked in the regular season because that's just what happened. And then it's like, oh, they're going to now lose the next 2 games because they got all the emotions and everything worked up about getting all pumped up for the series. And then, phooey, they just forgot how to play baseball the next couple of days. The Padres are going up against Dakota Hudson tomorrow.
That's chode.
Old friend Cal Quantrill on Tuesday, and Austin
Gomber. Not been
Gomber.
Like that's a chode.
Yeah. This oh gosh, I've seen some discourse so far about like, well, we won 2 of 3 against the Dodgers. So, if we don't win, all 3, we don't have to sweep the Rockies now, basically, because we took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers, which, we never had to sweep the Rockies. But that being said, all the wins count the same. So the ones that you have the opportunity to close the door on, you got to. And if you want to make up for giving up that, whatever it was, 6-run lead or whatever the last time we played the Rockies, this is the time to do it. When after the Braves, we're looking down the barrel at the Reds and then the Yankees. It's not like we're going to get a reprieve after this until we face the Marlins on Memorial Day. So we've got 2 weeks of really, really intense baseball, and this is our one oasis in the desert. We just got to take advantage.
And they can't look at it like an oasis in the desert. They have to look at it as they're facing a team that just swept the world champions.
Bingo. They got to, hey, it was a couple of Mondays back that we lost our 5th in a row to the Reds. And I was, on the radio, I was saying red alert flag, throw it up. I was talking to you guys saying the next 2 weeks could end the Padres season. And you know what? I don't think that was as hyperbolic as it seems now.
Yeah.
In point of fact, the team went 8-3 from that moment forward and turned 4 games under into a game over 500. If the team had gone 3-8 and turned 4 games under into 9 games under 500 heading into this week, could you imagine 9 games under right now? And then we're going, well, I hope we sweep the Rockies to get to 6 under so that when the Braves knock us around, we're only down to 8 under. And then we're going to spend the whole summer 8 under, if not sink lower. The season could have been over in these 2 weeks, but the team won 4 series in a row. They've got to continue with that just roll, grind, attack, destroy mentality. And one thing that this team has shown us over the years, our leaders, our veteran leaders, is that they have a tendency to over-celebrate the small things and to over-celebrate a series win in May and to let that leak into a future. Here's the good news. All of our leaders who are prone to that are playing like shit already. It'd be hard to tell the difference if they were mailing it in a little bit on Monday. It's like, well, how could you possibly tell? They've been awful anyways. So that's what excites me, is that Luis Arraez is never going to take a fucking day off. I'm sorry. That dude's going to spray line drives every day he can. And Cronenworth is on fire. Profar is playing the best baseball of his career. Camposano's hitting all the time. Merrill is just a tremendous young player. He's going to be an exciting player for years and years in Major League Baseball. Before we go, Hassan Kim, I have to ask this question. Hassan Kim took a pitch to the wrist in the game today. He left the game after running the bases. He was taken for x-rays. According to Sam Levitt on the Padres postgame show, the x-rays came back negative. I always take a beat on that because there's usually swelling, and sometimes swelling can interfere with an x-ray. However, I think it's very fair to say Hassan Kim will not play tomorrow. Today, as you listen to this podcast, I think it's pretty fair to say he won't play until Atlanta. Unless he gets out of this joyously, there's a good chance that he misses several games. He either goes on the IL for a 10-day stint or he misses a series to get his wrist right. So my question to you guys, today, Mike Schilt just put Tyler Wade at shortstop. That seems like definitely the worst possible choice. Who would you put at shortstop tomorrow if Hassan Kim can't play?
Xander Burroughs.
It seems to me that the logical thing would be just shift everyone in the infield left and put Arraez at first base. And then you're going to have Solano be your DH while Kim is out. And then you effectively have the same lineup, and that's not terrible. But that's That's gotta hold. it's okay. You got one patch. You got one patch job you can slap on there. If there's a second hole that opens up, you don't want to look under the hood because I don't like that lineup. Yeah,
I think they're deeper in the infield than they are the outfield. So while I hate to see Kim go down, offensively he's been just fine, and defensively, you know what we get. It seems like he's really turned a corner from his early season yips or whatever he had going on. And you want the team to have the best possible defense out limiting ability on the field that they can. And Xander's played the position all his life. I wouldn't, like, I think of the Padres' internal shortstop rankings. I feel like the next two on the list are playing in the outfield right now, and that seems a lot more disruptive, moving guys around than just having Xander go back to his old position.
Yeah, I don't think that would happen. Would you differ, Craig? Do you think that that's what you would do, or would you do something else?
I would put exit
shortstop.
I would put exit short. No question about it. I think it's the only fair thing. I actually think it's something he talked about in the spring, where he said, when Hassan Kim's out, I'd like to play short. I don't think a week at short would hurt him. And if coincidentally he started heating up, then we would hear every fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry go, well, it's the position change. That's why Xander Bogaerts hasn't been hitting. Look at that. You put him at shortstop and he started hitting. So that's the only reason I wouldn't want to do it, is because just to hear the nonsense, if coincidentally, having hit a homer on Sunday, he actually started to hit the ball a little better. I would not put Cronenworth at second. I would just put Arise at second base.
I disagree.
I know that metrically it makes sense, and I can't, again, this add it to the list of things I would never believe myself saying 2 months ago. Cronenworth is playing such a damn good first base. He's playing some of the best first base I've ever seen. He's locked in right now. And the team has to play a different style of positioning if Jake is not playing first base, because he's playing a radically different first base than most first basemen in the league. He's playing way off the line, and he's succeeding doing that. Because of that, it means less ground that Luis Arraez has to cover, as just by also Xander too, by the way, because Croney is covering so much. I would just not mess with a good thing. Cronenworth is doing great. I'd leave him be. Arraez thinks he's a good second baseman. It's not going to be that much worse than Xander Bogaerts, who I still think hasn't been right.
Whoa.
So disagree.
I was with you
so
there.
Much worse.
You had me till the last sentence.
Xander Bogaerts is playing like an actually good trademark TM symbol second base right now. I know that offensively things have been frustrating, but he's 96th percentile in terms of outs above average at second base right now. He has 4 outs above average, and Luis Arraez is like kind of like comically bad at second base. He's literally first percentile in fielding this year. He has -7 outs above average, and he doesn't play a lot of the time. He's like,
how can that even be? It's got to be. He's not actually that bad.
He's pretty bad, man.
He's pretty bad, dude. Like, he's pretty bad. And like, I guess my counter would be, doesn't Cronenworth being at second base also mean that you're limiting Arraez's exposure just on the other side? You know what I mean? Like, Cronenworth's covering now the ground at second base, and also Cronenworth can move to his right in a way that Luis Arraez cannot. Now, is Drake Cronenworth playing an incredible first base? Yes, that's because he's basically a shortstop who's playing first base, as I would expect him to be. But now he can move 2 different ways and not be, limited by the foul line instead of just one, and he can contribute that way. And I think it's more about limiting Luis Arraez's damage that he's going to cause in the field than it is about keeping Cronenworth's fielding tight, which is great, but he's just not going to be able to contribute in the way that he would at second base.
What if we just start Solano at second base?
That's kind of like, he started 10 games there last year. It's not ideal, but from what I've seen from Arraez, it seems more appealing just
I really wanted to argue, and then I hit the button on the Savant sliders that gives you the whole career. And
bad, Craig.
the very best he ever did was 27th percentile.
It's bad.
So, like, he's not a good fielder, period.
It's the whole
period.
argument around him is that how valuable can he possibly be, hitting near 400 if he's such a defensive liability that he's
Right.
going to be a DH most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, and also if your argument is that you don't want to mess with a good thing with Cronenworth, you arguably, from a fielding standpoint, you arguably wouldn't want to move Xander off second because he is playing a really good second base. And so then you would, you know what I mean? So it's
no, I know what you're saying. Okay, here's the other one I thought of actually before we started talking about it was just start Wade at second base. Like, it's not ideal, but for 3 days you could just leave Croney at first, put Bogarts at short. I just don't want Wade
Manny's
playing it
gonna
short.
Need days off too. Like I'm just not too worried. I think it sucks. And I'm just not. I don't think they're going to lose games, regardless of their infield configuration. And if you have to put him on the IL, then you have Eggy coming back, and Eggy can play he can play second and third as well. I mean, they're all kind of the same guy.
Look, the unfortunate
Nando
thing
shortstop. There it is.
Yeah,
Stop it.
The unfortunate thing is that because Xander Bogaerts is who he is, they're gonna probably put him at shortstop. But if they're gonna put Tyler Wade in the lineup, you probably should keep him at shortstop because the whole point of having Xander at second base was that it was hiding its biggest weakness, which is its arm, which has only gotten weaker. And now it's I mean, to a certain extent, I'm saying this somewhat in jest, but his arm is not stretched out to be playing shortstop in the way that he's been playing second base. He hasn't had to make that throw.
Raphie, he is a defensive wizard, and by that I mean he throws it exactly as hard as he means to.
That's exactly right. That's right. Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, listen, I don't think there's a perfect answer for Mike Schilt. There's not a completely easy answer. The simplest one politically would be to do what I said and put Arias in, and not make Xander happy by giving him short. Make Jake
You're right.
happy.
Arias in at short. That's the way to go.
Ooh,
that's how we have fun ball.
What if we
fun
just
ball
played him everywhere? Also, I think we've lost the only 2 times we've lost with Arias is when he was in the field, which is weird and certainly coincidental and noise and not signal. But nonetheless, it's not the easiest choice. It's every one of them has at least a little bit of risk within it. Okay, I'm just taking a look. Brilliant starting pitching, offense won 2 games with 6 runs. What do you got?
I got one thing for you. Yeah, just to go back to before we end the show, because you have a nice note you want to end the show on. You talked about these 2 weeks potentially, making or breaking the season in a way, and I just want to provide a converse example, which was right after the Padres' 5-game winning streak ended. We were 14-18. We had a 26.1% chance of making the playoffs. The San Francisco Giants were 14-15. They had a 39.3% chance of making the playoffs. Since that time, as of today, the Padres are 22-21. We have a 55.9% chance of making the playoffs. The Giants are 19-23. 21.9% chance of making the playoffs. Their $120 million man, Jung-Hoo Lee, is now going to go on the IL with a dislocated shoulder. KNBR and all the San Francisco outlets are basically calling for Bob Melvin's head, saying that he looks listless and sleepy and just disaffected. And I just that's all in the manner of 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if things had shifted to such a place that we are where the Giants are now, I mean, things would be bleak around here. And instead they're not, because the team is playing pretty darn good baseball the last 11 games. And so I just say that to say, Craig, what you were saying was not hyperbole, and these games really do matter at this point. And up until these next 2 weeks until Memorial Day, yes, they're against hard teams, but they really, really do matter. So I hope that we bring it.
The Padres are a hard team too, man. They are deep, and the maybe slightly in hindsight hyperbolic statement I made about them maybe having the best team rotation in history. We've at least seen glimpses, the flash of that, like what it could be. I mean, they're doing shit that hasn't been done in 125,
1893. I mean,
years.
maybe you were right. I mean,
Like,
based on the last 4 days alone.
I've walked it back a little bit. I'll be back here where I've walked back that statement a bit. But like, I just think they can go up against anybody. And we've talked about it. Our guys aren't even hot yet. Xander Homer today. Manny's taking at bats that do not look good and can only get better. So he's going to. And I feel like there's a lot of baseball to play, and we haven't seen the most exciting moment of the Padres season so far. And it's been exciting and fun.
Okay. And we said Rockies, Braves, we'll be back with group therapy after the Rockies series. So we don't have to talk about the Braves right now. They're a great team, but you know what? So's the team we just saw and beat. 5-3. The Padres have to beat the Dodgers 2 more times this year to take the season series for the first time since 2014.
They're going to do it.
Or I think it was 2010, pardon me. 2010, the last time we won a season series against the Dodgers. So 2 games could be the next series. Unbelievable. So good. Another thing, you could have knocked me over with a feather on March 19th, heading to 7 Mile Casino, saying the Padres will win 5 out of 3 or 5 out of 8 against the Dodgers to start the season. Friday, doing the Annie and Elsten show was really tough because literally in the span of 5 minutes, I found out about 2 people that I knew in the sport of baseball that passed away. I'll start with Barry Axelrod. Barry Axelrod, 77 years old, an agent to some of the great players of the 80s and 90s, a very close friend of Kevin Towers, who actually decertified as an agent to become a special assistant to Kevin Towers when he was the Diamondbacks general manager to work in that front office. I don't know how many, but Barry Axelrod and I did a handful of radio shows together. Back at 1090, I want to say, although it might have been Kogo. I used to see him at Petco Park fairly regularly. We weren't super close. For fuck's sake, he officiated Darren Smith's wedding. So there's levels to this. Okay. He did not officiate my wedding. He was a casual friend, but it's like somebody who back in the 2000s would reach out, or you could reach out to him, have him on the show anytime. Incredible person, a life really well lived, truly well lived, and a very good human being who people, you won't find negative stories about Barry Axelrod. And he did it the old fashioned way, and he'll be missed, but that's a life well lived. 77 years old, incredible life, incredible stories, incredible connections. Barry Axelrod, rest in power. I'm still really, really sad about Sean Burroughs passing away. I grew up in Long Beach, as you guys know. When I went to college down here in San Diego, first couple of years, one of the strongest great news stories was the Long Beach Little League winning back-to-back World Series championships in Williamsport. And people may not remember, the first one was actually won on a technicality. They lost the championship game, but that team had an ineligible overage player.
That was Almonte, right?
No, it wasn't Danny Almonte.
That wasn't Danny Almonte?
He was later on, but also extremely overaged.
Yeah.
But no, and so that was a technicality, but then they came back and won the World Series again in 1993. Legit. And Sean Burroughs pitched back-to-back no-hitters in the Little League World Series as a 13-year-old. And then he was a high school superstar at Wilson High School, which was the rival of Poly. But that was the actual high school that I was supposed to go to, if not for magnet programs. It was the high school down the street in Long Beach. He was the number 1 pick, 9th overall of the Padres in 1998. And he went to the Olympics in 2000, coached by Tommy Lasorda, and he won the gold medal. He won the gold medal. So he's an Olympic gold medalist. Sean was a kid that when he came up to the Padres, I was doing pre and post game show with Ben Higgins every day. I was at every game. I was at the ballpark every day. So, I mean, you could imagine how I felt with all that story and history that I told you of covering Sean Burroughs, like having him, this kid, this real kid, and meeting him and getting to know him in real life. And, you know, you could talk about his career all you want. Sean Burroughs, Mike Schilt would have loved to have coached Sean Burroughs. You know, Sean Burroughs would have fit in on the 2024 Padres. He can slash the ball, hit it to left field, hit it to center, hit it to right. In classic Padre fashion, they tried to convert him, tried to change his position, take him off third base, change his swing, add lift to his swing. It was all about what he couldn't do as a player. He was the author of the walk-off hit in the first ever game at Petco Park, April 8th, 2004, beating the Giants. He had his life fall apart. You know, the Padres tried to make him into something he couldn't be. He struggled. He started to numb himself, you know, with drugs and alcohol. Mitzi probably remembers this. I told this story on the radio Friday, but like in that time period, like a couple years after he kind of flamed out with the Padres, but he was still around, you know, it was one of the winters and I'm up in Long Beach and we were walking around 2nd Street, which is kind of like the popular, there's some bars and restaurants type street. And Sean just walked by while going the other way alone on the street. And, you know, I recognized him and he was like, oh, hey, you know, and he was fucked up out of his mind. Like he was completely plastered and like walking past him. Then I was just like, and talking to my wife and just like, God, that's so sad. You know, like it's so sad. Well, he turned his life around and in 2010, when he was the GM of the Diamondbacks, Kevin Towers gave Sean Burroughs another chance and invited him into the minor leagues of the Diamondbacks. And he fought his way back to the big leagues. And I think it was 278 he hit for the Diamondbacks in the big leagues. You know, the next year he played for Minnesota for like a minute and then he got hurt and then he was done. But he came all the way back. He went to the ballpark, the Stearns ballpark. When I was 17 years old, I did my Eagle Scout project, creating new bat racks for the Long Beach Little League that are still at, I don't know if they're still at Stearns. Hopefully they replaced them 34 years later. But like, just I've got connection to that fucking park. And he dropped off his 6-year-old and then was supposed to come back to coach the game. And he died in the parking lot. Like he collapsed next to his car. And then they were like, where's Coach Sean? And they went out to the parking lot and they found him. You know, and he died of a heart attack on Thursday night. He's 43 years old. He has a 6-year-old son. He's come out completely the other side, you know, and he's not a big leaguer anymore. He's Coach Sean for the Stearns, you know, Stadium Long Beach Little League. And it just rips my heart out to know that kid is going to grow up without his dad, but it was old enough to know what happened to his dad. Like it hurts. It really hurts. And it's just wild to know. I mean, that wasn't the career that Sean Burroughs wanted, but he was living the life he wanted at the end. And you know, it just breaks my heart to know he's gone.
I remember Sean Burroughs was like that era of the Padres was like really when I kind of came into my fandom of the team, and he was one of those guys who I just remember looking up to a lot. And I didn't know his story obviously, and you know, as I got older and he got older, and I just think it's worth saying that there are only 23,000 something people that have ever played Major League Baseball. And Sean Burroughs was obviously a vaunted prospect and top talent and everything like that, and went down a really dark road. And for anyone to be able to make it to the big leagues is a feat beyond belief. To leave the game for 4 years and to partying and struggling, and then to come back and make it back to the major leagues is unbelievable. Like, and it just shows you how much raw talent this guy had. And I know that his career didn't work out the way that he was hoping and how any of us would have hoped and dreamed for him. But like you said, Craig, the fact that he got to turn his life around and prove that he could make it back to the show and then be there and be a dad for his family, for his son, like it's just so devastating. And I'm also really proud that I got to grow up rooting for Sean Burroughs. And yeah, my thoughts are with his family because that's just terrible.
It just breaks my heart for his kid. All the other stuff is pretty ancillary.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, I just wanted, to kind of share those feelings. It's devastating for that family. I'm proud that man made. I've got nothing to do with it. Pride isn't the right word, but just from afar, to know what he went through and to know where he was the day he died. It's good to know. It's good to know that. I wish that there was more. I wish that we could have had him on the show. I wish that I could have run into him in Long Beach again. And I'm really sad that that'll never happen. Padres Hot Tub, we got the Rockies. Let's just kick their fucking ass. We'll be back with group therapy, or maybe we'll sweep and do an emergency post-game show. We can root for that, to be sure.
Just want to say thank you to everybody who listens, subscribe on YouTube, and check out our Patreon. We enjoy doing this, and even though we've ended on a bummer of a note, there's a lot to look forward to in the coming week.
Go Padres.